Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by a recent graduate of the DePauw women's lacrosse team, Bria Randolph. In her career, Bria was an All-NCAC Second Team Selection, NCAC Athlete of the Week, and led the team in assist her junior year. Prior to joining DePauw, Bria won the Marian B. Millard Award in 2019, which acknowledges a female who best exemplifies sportsmanship, leadership, ability, and enthusiasm in her athletic endeavors. Thank you so much, Bria, for coming on the podcast today. And how's everything going?
Thank you so much for having me. Things are going pretty well right now. I'm just at home living with my mom, while I'm saving up money for grad school next fall.
Nice, nice. How has your summer been going so far? And what have you been up to, I guess, since graduating college?
Yeah, so it started off a little rough with the post grad, like it was just a little bit of a sad little moment of trying to figure out how to not be a student after so many years of being in formal education, and also how to not be a student athlete especially was like a bit of a early life crisis is what I've been calling it. But this summer I've just been working. I work for a summer camp for middle schoolers called Middle Grades Partnership, down at Hampstead Hill Academy, which is near Patterson Park. We won't get into the geography of where I live; it's too much. But so I've been working at that summer camp, and that ended. So I've been hosting at a restaurant, and then I started in August, like the first week of August. I've been working for City Year, which is I am basically a student success coach at IW Wells in DC. And I'm just an in-class like support system for the students right now. And so I'll do that for the school year until June, and then hopefully by then I know where I'm going to grad school next fall.
Nice. And obviously, since you're done with lacrosse playing wise, do you still plan on being involved with the sport in the future, or are you officially retired?
So I think I am officially retired, but I am still like in the core of me an athlete, and so I still want to be involved with like athletics some kind of way. I've been thinking I mean, not that I would like want to be a coach when I grow up, but I do want to be involved, especially with like younger girls in sports, just because it's either hard for them to get exposed to it, or they just they don't have access to it. Or I'm a girl, I was an athlete growing up, like I just want to be able to use the advantages that I've had and the like resources that I do have, and give that to other younger girls who want to play sports, any sport, all the sports.
That sounds awesome. And obviously, we'll talk more about that at the very end when we ask you about growing women's lacrosse. But I now want to transition and sort of talk about the beginning of your career and sort of work up to where you are today. So, from the research I did on yourself, it says you're from Baltimore, Maryland. So, talk about growing up there and how'd you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah, so I am from like inner city Baltimore, so I've always lived like closer to the harbor than to like the outskirts of the city, which is what I like to call it. And lacrosse isn't like this is a huge hub for lacrosse, Baltimore, Maryland. Everybody and their mother plays lacrosse. Like they come out of the womb with a lacrosse stick. Um, but for me, it wasn't like I didn't know what lacrosse was until I left my public school and started going to private school for middle school. So I started playing lacrosse in sixth grade, which is so late for here. But I realized it's not actually that late once I went to the Midwest to play lacrosse. But so I started in sixth grade just because that's what my friends played, and so I was like, okay, I played soccer and basketball, and so I just thought like maybe this will help me like stay in shape on the off season, whatever, just something to do. My basketball coach was also the lacrosse coach at the school that I went to, so it was like I guess if everybody's doing it, I'll do it too.
And growing up, did you like watching lacrosse? And if so, like who were some of your favorite players and teams that you admired?
So growing up, the that's such an interesting question because I didn't like grow up around lacrosse at all. Like nobody in my family plays lacrosse. I think one of my cousins played in college, but I had no idea that he did that until he had graduated college. And so I didn't like, since I didn't grow up watching lacrosse, there was nobody that I was like consistently watching or like a fan of. It was the people that I was watching, and the people that I was a fan of were my friends who I was playing next to, who had started playing lacrosse far before me. Because I just like idolized them and their skills, similar to how like one would a professional athlete or another college athlete as a little sixth grader or a seventh grader, who I was. And so, and I also really liked basketball. And so I was paying attention to that realm way more than I was the lacrosse one.
Yeah, I think that's a good way though, because I feel like when you see someone do something and you get to know them personally, it means it's a little bit of a different feeling than like knowing a professional athlete, because obviously you're probably never going to meet that person ever in your
Yeah.
life. So I feel like it has a stronger impact that way, which is kind of cool, which you don't really hear too much about. Now, before college, you played for your high school lacrosse team with Friends School of Baltimore. So, talk a little bit more about your high school lacrosse experience and what you took away from that. And when you look back on it now, like, what's your favorite memory you have from your high school days?
So in high school, so yeah, I attended Friends School of Baltimore, which is right on the outside, like not outside of the city, it's within the city lines, but it's like very much closer to the line of farther away from inner city where I lived. And so I really enjoyed my experience at Friends because of the exposure I got to things that was not happening in my neighborhood. So like kids weren't playing soccer. My friends weren't playing, like my neighbors, they weren't playing lacrosse. They weren't playing soccer. They didn't have access to those sports. And so that's something that I really took away from playing lacrosse, especially at Friends, was the opportunity of playing lacrosse. Like I didn't realize how privileged I was until I'm like going to practice and everybody has these $200 lacrosse sticks and we're 13 years old with like valuable like objects, and then I go home after practice and no one has nobody has a pair of cleats even. And so something, my like biggest thing that I took away from playing lacrosse at Friends, even though it wasn't like a lot of the girls that I played with at Friends started playing when they came out of the womb, so I felt a little bit on the outskirts, and I also only played defense because I was a basketball player that also played lacrosse. And so the defensive aspect of lacrosse is very similar to that of basketball. And so that's kind of why I was able to play. And like it kind of came easy to me. I played midfield freshman year in high school, and not real, but I did do that. And so as a defender, it was just like something easy for me to pick up. But my favorite memory playing in high school was the championship game. I think we ended up losing, but making it that far, I can't remember who we played. I think it was like Mercy High School, and we lost. But playing at the U.S. Lacrosse facility, I can't remember, in Sparks, Maryland. That was really cool for me because I wasn't used to that platform of like a sport, and how like the kind of people that I was around was not like something that I was familiar with. And so it just felt very rewarding and like an earned like what's the word, moment in my life. I don't know, I can't think of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, you always remember those championship games for sure. And when you sort of look back on your high school career, how do you think it sort of helped prepared you for college lacrosse and that transition that you have to make from high school to college?
So something that I feel like I was a little more prepared for was the competition, being surrounded by, and well, while I was in high school and middle school, being surrounded by so many girls that were veterans in the sport at such a young age. Like girls on my high school team were committing to Johns Hopkins their sophomore year in high school. And so playing next to that sort of like high intensity and high level competition at such a young age is what made me feel comfortable walking onto the women's lacrosse team at DePauw. So I felt like I already had that leverage of being exposed to girls who are like playing lacrosse for real and not just like somebody, this is just like pickup. And so yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is like the girls that I was playing with could beat the girls that I was playing in high school, in college.
Mm-hmm. Now, you sort of answered this question talking about how basketball sort of helped prepared you for lacrosse, especially from the defensive aspect of things. But I do want to ask, how fun was it to play basketball, and how do you think sort of getting that break for basketball helped you sort of playing lacrosse? Because talking to a lot of athletes that play multiple sports, that burnout factor isn't really an issue because you're playing multiple sports, and you also played soccer as well. So that must have really helped you out to stay in shape throughout the entire season.
Yeah, that was like my most favorite thing about my like childhood, I guess. It wasn't really long enough ago to say childhood, but yeah, my favorite thing about like from 6th grade to 12th grade was the fact that I had the opportunity to play 3 different sports. And I've never felt burnt out because of it. I think it's because the seasons change and so does the sport. And so it never feels like I'm just doing the same thing, working all the time, working out all the time. Like that's not a task to me. That's like fun playtime, like recess
Mm-hmm.
for kids. Um, so I think playing basketball was like my thing. I did AAU in high school and it was really fun. I thought that that's what I wanted to play in college. That's fully what I intended to do. Especially when choosing a college, I didn't want to commit to a school because I wanted to make sure that I enjoyed the school just in case the sport didn't work out or an injury. Like I've just seen too many like freak accidents where girls commit to a college and then their sport doesn't work out and they're stuck at that school or they're forced to transfer somewhere else, which both of those is like too big of a inconvenience for me to handle at the time. And so I chose DePauw because I intended to walk onto the women's basketball team. And then I didn't. I ended up agreeing to play lacrosse. The women's lacrosse coach, Ann Molk, she reached out to me my freshman year at DePauw, and I was just like, I mean, and she stated it in her email. She was like, I know you're from Maryland, you play basketball, which they like are really similar. It's you wouldn't actually know how similar they were unless you played them, probably, but they are actually really similar. And so I think the fact that I was from Baltimore, Maryland, where everybody plays lacrosse, and I played basketball, so I obviously have some sort of IQ, and she also knew that I played lacrosse before. And so I felt comfortable taking her up on that offer because I played basketball and I also played lacrosse with like Division I athletes. And yeah, so nothing really turned me away from playing lacrosse. It was just the
Yeah.
hardest part was leaving basketball behind because I was so set on that. I was like positive that that's what I wanted to do in college.
Do you still watch basketball today? Like, who's some of your favorite teams or players?
So my favorite player, she's been my favorite player since I was in like middle school, is Skylar Diggins. She plays for the Phoenix Suns, I think. Yeah, she does. And so I've like grew up watching her. I haven't been watching her recently. I think I'm more into college basketball now, which is a little bandwagon of me. But I grew up, I really liked UConn. And but that was also a little bit bandwagon for me because I was just like, oh, they're so good and everybody likes them, so I like them too. But now I just really love everybody that plays college basketball, especially now in this day and age of like we're in the March Madness, the most recent one this March. Watching that made me realize that I actually do really enjoy watching this sport again. And so I'm trying to get back into it, but I'm not like watching anybody specific right now.
Yeah. I would say I'm probably a little bit biased by like AZ Fudd from UConn. She's super fun to watch, and hopefully she could stay healthy this year. And then I'm a huge Jason Tatum fan, so I probably like watching him a lot. I think he's probably the best like top 5 NBA player right now.
Okay. I forgot to mention the NBA. So I grew up and I loved Russell Westbrook, but I didn't know if he was actually really good. I just really liked how passionate he was
Yeah.
about everything, every little move, every little play. He just seemed really passionate about everything that was going on the court. I was about to say field. Yeah. Playing three sports has also like confused me a lot of like code switching between everything.
As a freshman, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse?
Um, I think the biggest adjustment was following like a structured schedule and like having to commit, making that commitment and then actually following through with it. I think was hard for me at first because I was just not like mentally prepared to just jump right into preseason lacrosse. I'm a freshman. I just got to this random campus that I've never seen in real life before. So my first day on campus was move-in day. And so now I'm playing lacrosse, which I never in a million years would have thought that this is what I would be doing in college. So the biggest struggle was just like retraining my brain to think like I'm a lacrosse player. I'm a lacrosse player. Like having to repeat that to myself, like I have to go to practice or else I can't. Because especially in middle school and high school, practice is right after school. Like school ended at 3:30, practice starts at 3:45. Where else am I gonna go but to practice? But in college, it was like a choice and like autonomous choice that I had to make every day to like show up to practice or like show up for my teammates and show up for myself really because that was like a commitment that I made and I wanted to stick to it. But it was just hard to readjust, especially being on a new campus, being like almost 900 miles away from home, and then playing a sport that I just played as an off-season fun time with my friends kind of thing.
And obviously, during your freshman season, the season got cut short due to the pandemic. So, how did you sort of handle that challenge and adversity of not getting the chance to finish your freshman year, but also challenges of trying to find ways to train whenever you had games coming up? Because I was obviously sort of up in the air at that point.
Hmm. Yeah. So, the like corest of core memories, was the day that we found out our season was over and everybody was going to get sent home. I think for me, the hardest part about our season getting cut short was just getting acclimated to the space and to the team and like traveling with them and like just all of that kind of being stripped away. But not even for me myself. I was like, I have 4 more years here. Like I'm fine. I will be okay. This is not the end of the world, even though it feels like it. But just seeing the seniors at the time handle that like announcement, especially at the time that we got it, we had just had our last like preseason game versus center and we won and it was just like a really really good game, a really good win. And then after that our coach comes into the locker room and is like, see ya, this is over. And so I just felt really bad for everybody else because I was just a freshman and there was four of us at the time. So it was like this is not my time to like sulk and be sad. Like I have time. I hope. I actually had no idea if I had time or not. But in my brain, I was like, the seniors have it the worst, so let me give them their space. But then once we got sent home, which was so traumatic in itself, not even just because of lacrosse, but like college wise too, very traumatic experience. But my way of training at home, it took me a long time to get on a schedule, but I would run around. There's a lake down here that was closer to where I lived at the time when we got sent home, and it's called Montebello Lake, and I would just run around it a bunch of times. Something that I knew that I wanted to work on was getting my mile number up, and so I would just like go there, do short miles, try and do long miles, like interval runs, and that's mostly what I did. I did like at home workout videos. It sucked, but it was really nice that like I got to control it and like it was at my own pace. Hated the time, but I think I made lemonade out of the lemons, just with what I had.
Yeah, and when you sort of look back on your career, what would you say is like the biggest improvement you've made to your game throughout your time in college?
The biggest improvement that I have made is um I think for me personally is not like carrying the weight of everybody's like role because I played defense in high school and middle school for the most part. And then now all of a sudden I'm playing attack and midfield by my senior year. Um it was hard to like be an attacker because I had never done that before. And so I think something that I definitely grew into was my role and my position as an individual on the field and as an attacker. Um, in the like just trying to make myself like trying to be seen, trying to do something different. Like not that I'm trying to be the hero every game, but like I'm trying to stand out just so that people know that I'm here and people are seeing me.
And how did you work on that versatility of becoming a better attacker? Because I feel like people don't realize how hard that transition is going from being a defender to being an attacker. But just from my observation, looking at your statistics, it just got significantly better each year. And by your senior year, you were one of the better attackers on the team.
It was so hard and humbling because as a defender, I don't need any stick skills. Like that's why I played lacrosse in the first place. I'm a basketball player. I don't know how to catch and throw, whatever. Um, and so I was very like insecure, especially my freshman year. Um, I was very insecure playing attack because I knew that that's not something I didn't even know what do you guys do down here besides score. And also just like being comfortable with using my left hand or being comfortable with running into traffic or being comfortable just carrying the ball, like cradling, all of that stuff was very hard for me to just become comfortable with even trying, let alone then learning how to actually do it. And like I'm not a master at it, but just like being way better than I was like senior year in high school. And not I don't think that I was bad, but just from what I've seen and like girls who are trained to be an attacker from a young age versus a defender, and I show up to lacrosse, which in the first place I wasn't supposed to be here, and then now I'm supposed to be an attacker. So it was humbling, but I figured it out. Just repetition, practice, being like throwing myself into lines for drills, going on my left side, like not skipping that line, actually trying to get better, was something that I had to learn, and then something that I also like tried to implement at practice.
You played in the NCAC conference, so just talk about playing in that conference, just the competition that you faced each game.
I really enjoyed our conference. I feel like it's so hard because freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and senior year were all very different. Like it wasn't a seamless experience for me at all. It was like every year there was something else, or like no season looked the same as the last season. And so the way that our conference looked my freshman year versus how it looked senior year was very different. We were like the bottom at the bottom of the list in our conference. Just the competition was just better than us. And then by the time we got to senior year, we're like top four, playing in the playoffs, both my junior and senior year. And so I think the competition that we played against in our conference was as somebody who started playing in sixth grade, I thought it was really good. And especially the schools like Denison, for instance, those girls, they played lacrosse. Like they could probably play lacrosse Division 1, but wanted that D3 experience, which I agree 100%, and I support that decision. But those girls are so good, and those girls are playing at a Division I level. They're playing Division I teams even, like scrimmaging them or whatever. And so I feel like our competition was really hard, but it wasn't something that we couldn't like compete with and like actually give them a run for their money.
I do want to talk to you about your season this past year as a senior, because obviously that's when your team had the most success. And at being a senior, what type of leadership did you want to bring towards the team? Would you consider yourself more of a vocal leader or the by example type of player?
So I was the only, so I told you there was four of us my freshman year. By the time it was senior year, it was just me. I was the lone senior on the team, and so it was really difficult for me trying to figure out how to lead a team full of peers and like friends at the most for the most part. Um, and I would say that I'm definitely a vocal leader. I like don't have a mute button. I am always talking. I'm always advocating for somebody or just holding others accountable is one of my biggest like I can't think of the word like that's my thing. Holding people accountable, and so I'm always like chatting, talking, or I'm also just like very social, and so a lot of the times I am just talking because tell me about your day kind of thing. But as a leader specifically, I am the go-to of like, will you tell the coaches this or will you tell the players this? Just because, you know, as the senior, you're kind of the middleman of like communication between the coaches and the team, just because I've been there for so long and like I know their communication styles the best. And so yeah, I'm very, very vocal, but it was very hard for me to figure out how to be the only senior who like everybody's looking up to and everybody's leaning on for like advocacy, for support, for like literally anything. I was like a mother to 15 other girls.
Hey, at least the senior day must have been short, and it's all about you too, which not many people get to say that. So there are some positives towards being the only senior in the team.
Yeah, it was pretty nice actually.
Now, how did you sort of learn how to balance both academics and lacrosse? That was another question I want to ask you, because obviously you've received many, honors for being a good academic student as well with lacrosse. So I just want to ask sort of how you learn to balance both those things, because that's a skill that I think many people don't give players enough credit for.
Yeah, I agree, especially at the Division III level, because in retrospect we pay to play, we're not paid to play. And so everything is a choice that we as players make, which is nice. But when it comes down to juggling between school and being an athlete and also being like a social human being on campus, it got really difficult for me. Like mentally, it was just like I couldn't figure out how to satisfy everybody, how to satisfy my lacrosse world, how to satisfy my like professors and myself academically, and then also how to satisfy my friends because I'm so busy, I'm traveling, and then I also am a senior, so I'm like writing my thesis and nobody is seeming to give me a break. Everybody wants all of me, but I can't give you all of me. I'm splitting you between three different things. And so yeah, very underrated struggle as a Division III student athlete, but something that I learned, especially a little late, but learned nonetheless, is to just prioritize myself and what needs to be addressed in that moment and what's in front of me, not try to solve other people's problems or other like other spaces. If they had a problem with they're not getting enough of me, like I'm sorry, that's the best that I can do. And
Mm-hmm.
so the way that I juggled between academics and sports was just prioritizing the two. And so socially, it wasn't like I wasn't the best at juggling, like making time for my friends. But at the end of the day, I needed to graduate, and lacrosse was a commitment that I made. And so, like, everything else was just a privilege to get time with me,
Mm-hmm.
really. But that's everybody I think is juggling juggling all of those things differently, but I don't think enough people address or talk about or acknowledge the fact that like it's actually not easy. I'm not a machine. I can't just go for everybody all the time. But
Yeah, no, I
yeah.
totally get you. I feel like sometimes I feel like people need to sort of, I think people forget about that sometimes, especially with athletes, is that like we're not machines, we're real human beings. And I totally echo your statement on that. But I feel like as long as you try and just, try to be a good person, I feel like everything sort of works itself out. And I think people will have understanding for that as well.
And especially going off of like having to like playing a sport at a Division 3 level, we pay to play. I'm not getting any extra things. I like paid for this quarter zip right here. Like this wasn't just handed to me as some sort of merch or a gift for playing lacrosse. Like I paid for my lacrosse stick, I paid for my cleats, I paid for, and it's not a cheap sport to play.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets mentally a little bit draining of like I'm choosing that, but it's hard to like still participate in it sometimes.
Now, this past season, your team had a historical year. Despite losing in the NCAC semifinals, you guys won your first NCAA Division 3 tournament game. So just talk about your team's performance this past season and sort of what you took away from your first tournament experience as well.
I was obsessed with my experience. So my season was like all over the place. It was May 6th. We thought that our season was over because a specific team had lost who we needed to win. So on May 6th, we thought that we were out of the like not an option for getting a bid to the NCAA tournament. And then May 7th comes and we find out we're in, we're going. Even though that team had lost, we're still gonna go. And so that was like I had already said my goodbyes, I said my thank yous, my farewell to my teammates. And then it was like, okay, there's actually one more week left. And so we traveled to Kenyon for like the 100th time of the season to play Lake Forest College, which was also their first appearance in the tournament. So that was just like, it was way cooler than like hostile at all for all of the players on the field for that game, especially because we were all just happy to be there. We were like, our school's never seen this place before. Like, this is actually a big deal, and we're both doing it at the same time. So that was really cool. And also just again being the only senior, I felt like my hard work was being like recognized and I was being rewarded for it. And then so we played Lake Forest College, and then the next day we fell to Kenyon, which was okay. I'm okay with that loss, even though I'm kind of a sore loser, just because we played Kenyon a billion times. One of their defenders I went to high school with, Marian Helmacy. And so that was just, it was just cool to see like we both came from the same place. We're both also here. Like, we also played so well during that game. So I was just very like satisfied with that ending of my entire career.
And what will you take away from your collegiate lacrosse career looking back on it now?
Something that I'll take away is to um, speak up, advocate for yourself, but also you don't have to fight every single battle that is placed in front of you, because not every single battle is yours to fight. And so, like I said, I'm a very vocal leader and I'm advocating all the time, but like sometimes that can get a little draining and you can't carry the weight of everybody's struggle. Like everybody's going through something, especially as a student athlete. Like it's hard work, but so just not feeling like I have to speak up for everybody, just like putting myself first sometimes too, not just leaving myself on the back burner and advocating for everybody else and fighting everybody else's battles.
So we're now in a segment I like to call 5 questions that have nothing to do with lacrosse with Bria Randolph. And the goal of the segment is to hopefully get to know you a little bit more off the field. So I'm excited to ask you some fun questions. So first one is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
That is such a hard question. I would prefer that it be a comedy, but the actor that I would choose is Taylor Russell, because and I don't think I've even seen a movie that she's in, but she has this movie with Timothy Chalamet, and multiple people have told me that we look alike. And so I would just choose her because we kind of look similar.
Yeah. I guess I would choose Timothy Chalamet. I think that'll be fun. I don't know anything. I know he's playing Willy Wonka, and Travis Scott like is upset at him about something because he dissed him in a song. But I don't know. I feel like it'll be cool for having to play me in a movie, so I would pick him. Now, next one is what's the most underrated holiday and what's the most overrated holiday?
So I'm really passionate about this, and I think the most underrated holiday is Thanksgiving. It is my favorite holiday. It has been my favorite holiday for a really long time. I just love the food, and I love just it's a holiday to sit and eat with the people that you love. And so definitely Thanksgiving. And the most overrated holiday, I would so when I was younger, my answer wouldn't be the same. But right now, as like 22 turning 23, is Christmas, because now we're at the age where like we're supposed to be getting gifts for people. And yeah, I just don't like the whole like spend all your money and this is how you show people that you like love them.
Yeah,
I love Christmas, don't get me wrong. Like my birthday is 6 days before Christmas. I love Christmas, but I like the aesthetic of Christmas. I don't like the buy gifts. Spend your hard-earned money to buy gifts.
yeah, I know. It's sort of similar to like Valentine's Day, like spend money to sort of show your
Yeah,
significant
every day
other
could
that
be
you care
Valentine's
about
Day,
them.
and
When
every day Christmas.
exactly. So I'm with you on that. Mine on my overrated holiday is a little bit controversial. I would say Halloween because the best part about Halloween is trick or treating, and then once you become an adult, you can't do that anymore, and it's like just kind of just a boring ish holiday because you're not really doing too much outside of like carving pumpkins if you want to do that. So I would pick Halloween as my overrated one, and then my underrated one. I'll agree with you with Thanksgiving. Nothing better than family, football, and food, and
Mhm.
I definitely enjoyed that a lot. So I'd probably go with that holiday. The only thing about Thanksgiving that needs to change is they need to stop showing the Detroit Lions every Thanksgiving, switch up the teams a little bit.
I was just about to say, so my family, they're Cowboys fans. And so
Yeah,
we love to watch
Cowboys make
the
sense
Cowboys.
though. Like
Yeah,
the
that makes
Lions make
a lot
no
of sense.
sense.
Yeah, I agree. We can switch up the opponent, but we can keep the Cowboys. Even though I don't love the Cowboys, but my family
Yeah,
love.
yeah. Next one is what's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
So the most interesting thing that I've read, or seen this week was there's this trend on TikTok about the Roman Empire and how frequently men specifically think about it on like maybe a daily or weekly or even monthly occasion. Apparently, a lot of them think about it very often or more often than I probably would.
Yeah,
So that's something that I've seen that's really interesting. And I've tested it out. I've asked like coworkers and friends, and it's seeming to be true that it's been in their brain a lot more recently than, in my opinion, it should be. But
yeah.
it's apparently a really important historical moment, but I feel like
I,
there's better things or more important things to be thinking about every day.
Yeah, I feel like I'm living under a rock a little bit. I've never heard of that trend before, but I don't really think about the Roman Empire at all. I'd probably maybe like once in high school for a project, but that might be it. But no, I
That's
think
really
I haven't really thought about it too much, honestly. I think for me, probably just like I've been listening to a lot of music, so and I've been sort of interested to see how songs have been written. So that's been sort of interesting to see sort of the creative process behind that. And then I read this good book called Manhunt, and it's about the manhunt for John Wilkes Booth. I think a lot of people know the story of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, but a lot of people don't really know about the manhunt for John Wilkes Booth after Lincoln was assassinated. And I just thought it was a really interesting story, and it was a fun book to read. And yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. So maybe I'm not thinking about the Roman Empire, but I'm thinking about other parts of American history. Now, next non-lacrosse question is which player on the DePauw women's lacrosse team has the best style off the field besides yourself, Bria, because the necklaces look good, the rings look good, and the earrings. So you definitely have the best style on the team.
Thank
But
you so much. I agree. Um, No, but I do actually think that I'm the most stylish on my team.
You are.
But a
Yeah.
close second would be they kind of tied for two, but I think first place, just because you mentioned the jewelry and stuff, and so I'm really into it, is Grayson Campbell. She's a senior now. She was a fellow attacker of mine, and I just loved like all of her jewelry. She has like a bunch of piercings in her ears and different earrings and different rings, and I just like her style in general. I don't think I've ever told her this, but so I'm exposing myself. I admire her jewelry collection, and I also do like she's from California, so she has that kind of like California granola girl vibe to
Yeah.
her, and I just like it.
How do you pick out a necklace? I'm curious about that because I know for guys it's sort of similar stuff, but at least for like girls, it's like different designs and stuff, and I find it pretty fascinating.
So I usually lean towards the like dainty, smaller ones, just because you can also like stack them a lot better. They just lay perfectly together. So I can wear four necklaces at a time because they're all tiny.
Nice, nice. Now, what's your favorite necklace that you have?
Um, my favorite necklace would be, well, you can't really see it because it's small, but this one right here. Um, and also this one, both of these together.
Hmm.
They were a gift to me by my boyfriend, and this one says Boss, and he got a dog while we were in college, and his name was Boss. So I don't think that I'm a boss. This is like a little memorabilia for his dog,
Nice.
Boss.
Well, shout out to your boyfriend for getting good jewelry.
Yeah,
Next,
good.
last non-lacrosse question is what is one item on your bucket list that you hope to do one day?
One item on my bucket list. I don't want to be basic and say skydiving, but that is on my list. But another one is I want to see the Northern Lights one day. I don't know why. That's just like something that I feel like I would appreciate seeing in real life. But also traveling the world, of course. I just want to go everywhere.
Yeah. I feel like everyone's is probably traveling. I would include
Yeah,
myself with that. I would say outside of that, probably like ride a hot air balloon. I feel like that would be a lot of fun. So that would be cool.
that's a good.
Or I don't know if these things exist. I might sound stupid by saying this, but I would love to see like what a jetpack is like and actually try it because I see it all the time, but I don't know if it's real because I've never like actually seen it before outside of like cartoons. But if they do exist, I'd love to like try one on and see
Yeah,
what that's like inside so I don't like hurt myself.
yeah. No, I'm also embarrassed to say I've never been snowboarding or skiing, and so those are two things that I feel like I should have done by now
Yeah.
that I haven't done.
I've
But
never done it
they're all,
too, so don't worry about it.
yeah. Okay, cool, cool, cool.
I'm more of a hockey guy. That's how I spent my winters. Not really skiing and snowboarding person because there's not a lot of mountains up, like at least here where I'm from.
Yeah.
So, um, I guess getting back to some lacrosse questions now. One more I want to ask you is what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse? One thing I found sort of interesting that you said at the beginning of this interview was what you're sort of doing now, trying to give kids, access to playing different sports and trying to grow their love in sports. And I feel like that's probably similar to women's lacrosse is giving kids in different areas the chance to sort of play and have sort of an equal playing field in regards to getting equipment and getting into the sport because that's obviously expensive, like you've mentioned before.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a big reason why I don't want to officially retire the like athletic side of me is because I feel like I have a lot of responsibility being, a black women's lacrosse player. There's not too many of us out there. And so it's like it feels like my civic duty to like be the representation that little girls need to see in order to even like see themselves as a lacrosse player or like see themselves in me as a lacrosse player just and also so like the representation and exposure to lacrosse again because I grew up around like very underprivileged children and like families and people who just don't have access to the equipment or the resources. Lacrosse is a very elite and exclusive sport to play, and I don't fully identify as many of my counterparts on the field just because of like socioeconomic status, race, all of that stuff. And so I feel like I want to be like, I think little girls need more representation of girls that look like them or like come from places like them, because otherwise the sport's just going to stay predominantly white and very upper class, a very upper class sport to play.
Yeah, I played hockey growing up, and one thing that I sort of didn't realize is sort of the impact of having, like having when a black person plays hockey, sort of the impact that they have on other younger black children to see
Yeah,
that representation, like you mentioned, and just how important that is. It's something that I don't really realize every day. And I think obviously I'm trying to get better to realize that more. But like you said, I think that's important. And hopefully at some point during your playing career, someone watched you play and sort of got inspired because of you. And I think that's super important to help grow the sport and make it more diverse, because I think that just makes the sport better and everyone can play and that's more fun. And I'm assuming you would agree with me on that
I
as well.
agree wholeheartedly.
Now, before we end this interview, Bria, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your family members, friends, teammates, former teammates, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Yes. So shout out to my family, of course. Even though lacrosse is not our thing, they still supported me in that, which was helpful. Which I'm sure is the reason that I agreed to continue to play, because no matter what I was doing, they were gonna show up to a game. Um, and then shout out to my teammates, who were there like through the we bonded a lot because of like the different struggles that we faced every season, being the underdog and then growing. I just think that my teammates are so resilient and so supportive. So shout out to them. So jealous of them. But being the only senior was also hard leaving because no one left with me. It's like
Yeah.
I have a little bit of FOMO now because I'm like all of them are still there and I'm just not. But yeah, shout out to my family and my teammates and my friends who got me through the struggles of being a lacrosse player. Not just saying, oh, maybe you should quit, but actually like just hearing me out, listening to me talk, listening to me vent. Because even though like a lot of my closer friends didn't play lacrosse, they were still there to hear me complain or to hear me to celebrate my victories with me. So shout out to them.
Well, shout out to you, Bria, for taking time of your day and coming on. I really appreciate your time. It means a lot to myself. I think you're a great player, but an even better person. And I just want to let you know that. And I wish you the best of luck with your future endeavors. Obviously, with grad school coming up that you're saving up for and just the jobs that you have. You're a hard worker, and I know you're going to be successful whenever you decide to do so. Thanks for coming on, and I really appreciate your time, like I said.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you.